All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Got a bit of a early show, but yeah, Wednesday evening. I know some folks go to church, and then there'll be people that watch it later, and so that'll give you time to digest a lot of information to throw out at you today. So I've titled the show, something to the effect of Donald Trump Jr. calls out the establishment puppet, and so let me show you exactly what I'm referring to here. So I'll be showing you the screen here. And once again, I'm going to toggle through these different screens and, I'd like to back it up, show you what I'm talking about. So here goes this one right now. So Donald Trump Jr. Posted this. Well, it was posted by Newsmax, but DT Jr. told Newsmax that he wouldn't have GOP primary candidate Nikki Haley as his father's vice president. He says, I would go to great lengths to make sure that doesn't happen, he added. And so obviously right off the bat, hey, look, that's his son. And so you would expect that there would be some input there. And he has a reason to say no to Nikki Haley. And so let's explore that a little bit. We're going to be looking at why he says no, the ramifications, not just for Trump's candidacy as president, but also ramifications for the rest of us, for the rest of America, rest of the world, because he gets into some details here. So let's move on to the next screen here that I want to show you. And let's stop that one and present this screen here. It is and let me show you this to you real quick. I'm gonna have to go through this order here because that stuff always gets thrown out of whack. But let me show you this one here. We've had some fun before with what Donald Trump Jr. has said, and so let's listen to this. It's a little bit of a blast from the past, but it was a bit of very real information that Donald Trump Jr. put out, and it affects directly the constituents of CD23. As you all know, I'm running for Congress, and you can find out information at usborderpatriot.com. But let's listen to what Jr. here has to say.
If you voted for this thing as a conservative, you're an idiot. Today, we're going to talk the January 6th Commission, where they look into the events of January 6th under the, watchful eyes of Nancy Pelosi and congressional Democrats in charge, and we're going to get an objective opinion. But we're also going to talk about the 35 rhinos that voted along with the Democrats on this commission. Now, I'm going to say 10 of those 35 are the ones that voted for the impeachment. And here's a list. Grand Old Memes put up the list on Instagram. Check it out. You'll probably recognize the 10 that voted for impeachment. They have the Never Trump contingent. But then you also have 25 that I'm assuming are either naive, stupid, never Trumpers, or impressionable, easily influenced by the media or the Democrats, or perhaps all of the above. Because if you voted for this thing as a conservative, you're an idiot. This is something that will be used and weaponized against conservatives forever.
And so there you go. And ain't that the truth? Look, part of what happens here, folks, with these elected officials, their decisions have ramifications. Their decisions are going to have consequences. They're going to affect the rest of us. That's why we live in a constitutional republic. That's why the founding fathers set up our government the way they did, because we couldn't crowd in everybody to D.C. or to the state capitals to vote on issues. You would never get out of there. And so they set up a representative form of government, and the Constitution is the basis that guides us. And so what Donald Trump Jr. here, when he's talking about the January 6th committee that was formed, it didn't take a rocket scientist for the rest of us, to see that it would have long-term effects, that it would be used against conservatives, against patriots, against America First citizens. And so that was just the tip of the iceberg that we see it now, coming to fruition in the way that they have set up these kangaroo courts and a total unconstitutional, basis for the claims against Donald Trump. And so we're seeing how it's now called lawfare, instead of warfare, lawfare. We see how our systems have been hijacked, disregarded, thrown by the wayside. I was speaking with a person today who said something to the effect of, the laws and the systems, the judicial system doesn't apply. This is not America anymore. That could be a bit of a bleak outlook, but there is some truth to that, folks, as we see what's happening. So Donald Trump Jr. Says that Nikki Haley cannot possibly be Trump's VP pick. And so let's get a little bit more into that. There's an interesting article here. It goes into a little bit more detail that I wanted to share with you. And so let me get rid of that other one. And I'm going to bring this one up here. And so let me show you this. We're going to get into it right now. So this is an article. I don't want to show you the feet there. 100%fedup.com is where this was posted. But they grabbed that. Post out of Newsmax. And sorry about the pictures here. Hey, look, man. I mean, there's advertising all over the place. Open source, the same way that you can access this information. I'm accessing this information so that you can trust and verify. That's what I've always said. When I tell you something, when I say something, when I point you the direction, when I'm trying to warn you about something, I'm going to go to the information. And it has borne true here in Congressional District 23 when we warned you about Tony Gonzalez, his plans to open the border, his plans to disregard the Constitution, to disregard the Republican Party platform, to disregard the very word of God. We warned you from the very beginning, folks. So I'm doing the same thing here, sounding the alarm. So here, Donald Trump Jr. on potential VP pick for his father says he would go to great lengths so that it doesn't happen. And so he said in an interview with Eric Bolling, Newsmax, he would do everything he could to stop that. He goes on to say, I wouldn't have her, and I would go to great lengths to make sure that doesn't happen. And this is the poignant stuff here. Now we're getting to the crux of the matter. We're getting to the meat and potatoes of the show. She's a puppet. She's a puppet of the establishment in Washington, D.C., is what he says. She's the new favorite candidate of the billionaire class because they want control. No different than academia and Harvard and using their billions to exercise influence, he continued. So, look, folks, he's referring to those group of people that try to control our society, trying to control the direction of our nation, trying to control elections through the money by throwing massive quantities of money at candidates, at groups that are going to, get out the vote and affect the vote turnout. That are going to, go out and block walk and send out mailers and TV commercials, etc. This is what he's talking about, is this group of very rich people who are trying to affect the outcome of this election. And we see the lawfare that's going on, Colorado Supreme Court, etc. We see the way that Trump has been questionably indicted, different places. We see what's going on, folks. We see how the systems of our land have been turned against us, have been turned against American citizens. Our government agencies have been turned against us to spy inwardly, to spy on American citizens. So warrantless searches and other activities that tells us clearly our government has turned against us in different segments of it. And in this case, billionaires are trying to affect the outcome by throwing their money at Nikki Haley. So let me show you some of the people that he's talking about. He calls her a puppet of the establishment. I've said it. With the big money are going to come the strings, and they're going to pull the strings according to the donor agenda, to the donor's agenda. And look, I'm not talking here about the folks that are, scrabbling together $5, $10, $100 to donate to a worthy candidate. I'm not talking about everyday Joe. I'm not talking about mom and pop that are making a decision to take food off their table and fuel out of their vehicle to donate to a candidate who they find to be worthy of their donation. That's not who I'm referring to. What I'm talking about here are these folks, these people that have vast amounts of money. $1 million to them is a week's vacation somewhere. But they're part of a group that has an ulterior motive for the way that our society is going for citizens with this invasion that's taking place up through our southern border. These are the same groups of people that are involved, and I'm going to tie that in together for you. There's a reason I say that, because Nikki Haley has been called a puppet of the establishment, the billionaire class. So let's start breaking that down here. I'm going to show you this next article. So when Trump Jr. is referring to somebody, let me give you an example of that right here. So this is open source. Go research it. This came out of CNBC. JP Morgan CEO. And now you all know that this is a financial segment of a person affiliated with the Wall Street, crowd. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon to business leader to business leaders help Nikki Haley. This is what he says. He told an audience of business leaders to help Nikki Haley in her 2024 Republican campaign for president. He says, get a choice on the Republican side that might be better than Donald Trump. It's what he told this crowd. He said this at a conference hosted by the New York Times DealBook franchise. And the audience was hedge fund veteran Bill Ackman, billionaire Elon Musk, media titan David, Zaslav, and Disney CEO Bob Iger. We're all scheduled to speak later in the day. So look, folks, this is what Donald Trump Jr. is referring to when he says the billionaire class, when he says we've got this group of a small group compared to the rest of us that are just living life, trying out here to make the dollar stretch and have been affected by the policies and decisions of corrupt, feckless politicians who are only seeking to enrich themselves and who are doing so at the risk of America, the risk of our freedom, our future, our children, grandchildren's future. And so he's pointing to this class here. And so you have one example here. Let me show you another one as I close out of this page. Let me bring this next one up. And we're just going to go through this like this. I'm just going to go through it, give you my commentary. I'm showing you stuff so that you can see it. It's of course, it's being recorded, and you can go research it later on yourself. Just do a Google search, go to the site. In this case, CNBC. But this is the gist of it. Billionaire-backed Koch network endorses Nikki Haley for president. This is what Trump Jr. was referring to. And so once again, you have heard me speak about the Koch brothers, the Koch network. And once again, I'm going to elaborate on that because, folks, these people that are trying to affect the outcome, that are fighting against Trump, and many of us out here believe that they're trying to keep him out because he stands in the way of their plan. They're trying to keep him out because he has been exposing and working against them. They want him out of this election. They want business as usual, back when it was the Clinton and Bush, Obama days. That's what they want. It was supposed to have been a continuation, they thought, under Hillary. And of course, Trump threw a massive wrench into that. And a lot of people's eyes were awakened to the way that the establishment globalist, the Unity Party, was working. And so that is why billionaires are throwing their money at candidates. And right here in Congressional District 23, there's candidates that are being aided, that are affiliated with the very people I'm showing you right now on the screen, the Koch brothers. Billionaire-backed Koch network endorses Nikki Haley for president. The political network, largely financed by billionaire Charles Koch, endorsed Nikki Haley for president. The endorsement marks the end of a year-long search for a viable alternative to Donald Trump Jr. The political network, largely financed by billionaire Charles Koch, endorsed former Ambassador Nikki Haley. It comes through their Koch-backed super PAC, Americans for Prosperity Action. And you've heard me speak about these. I'm gonna sound the alarm. I'm gonna continue talking about AFP because, folks, AFP is acting on acting on behalf of the Koch brothers, who are pro-open borders. They're pro-amnesty. They're globalists, and so I'm just going to have to continue saying it over and over and over again because, not everybody sees this at the same time, and it needs to be shared. I need for you to like, share, and follow. I need for you to send this to your relatives, especially if they live in this district. I would say that, because I'm running for that. But of course, you need to do your research and find out if your candidates, in your state, in your community, are in your district are being funded, supported by the Koch brothers, Americans for Prosperity, and there's several other organizations. I'm going to show you. The other big one is the Libre Initiative. It means free or freedom. The Libre Initiative, LIBRE. They are funded by the Koch brothers, much the same way that George Soros, through his Open Societies Foundation, funds other groups, funds other candidates, funds other projects around the world. These are the billionaire class that Trump Jr. referred to, that are trying to affect the races. We have seen Soros, of course, the way he has affected the district attorney races, leading to this rampant lawlessness all across the country in our major cities. So in this case, we're talking about the Koch brothers and their super PAC, Americans for Prosperity Action. This organization is the one that pays the bills, that pays for mailers and pays for block walkers, etc. So they say that she has what it takes to lead the policy agenda, et cetera, et cetera. Americans for Prosperity Action has already spent millions of dollars so far bashing Trump this cycle, arguing that he would lose a general election to President Joe Biden. Preposterous, folks. Absolutely ridiculous. Outer space. But American Prosperity is spending money. It's right here before your very eyes. So far bashing Trump this cycle. And so Haley says she's honored to have support of Americans for Prosperity. And so they will go out, folks. They will put boots to the ground, she says right here, including its millions of grassroots members all across the country. And so you need to be aware. There are candidates right now running in your state, in your community, that are hanging out. They're being supported by Americans for Prosperity. There's a candidate right here in this district that is running. Victor Avila has those connections. And I'm going to do a whole separate show about Victor's affiliation with Americans for Prosperity, Libre Initiative, and the Koch brothers. And you know me, folks. If I say it, I'm going to provide you the truth. And so that will happen. And so both Trump dismissed it. And so spokesman for the campaign, the Trump campaign, said, Americans for Prosperity, the political arm of the China First, American Last movement, has chosen to endorse a pro-China, open borders, and globalist candidate in Nikki Haley. So that is what's going on here. let me find a separate one. Well, let me read this real quick because this is how serious the situation is. As you all know, in campaigns, money, can fund operations, can fund the get out the vote, can fund the mailouts, can fund the block walking. In addition to an army of volunteers and staff across the country, the PAC, meaning America First PAC, Americans for Prosperity PAC, has already raised over $70 million in the 2024 election cycle. $70 million. Charles Koch himself has an estimated worth of $50 billion. And so he's long supported, free market economic policies, aka cheap labor. So there's a lot more to that article. Let's get out of here because there's other stuff that I want to show you. And just so you know, folks, I've been telling you about this, and just actually, yesterday, I had posted this very, warning, this alert. The Koch brothers Open Borders Amnesty Group, and this is over my Facebook page, Frank Lopez Jr., U.S. Border Patriot. The Koch brothers Open Borders Amnesty Group, AFP Action, endorsed Nikki Haley and Tony Gonzalez. I put this out yesterday, and Trump Jr., calls him out today. So the political arm of the Koch brothers network is promising to commit its nationwide coalition of activists and virtually unlimited funds to help Haley defeat former President Trump at the GOP primary contest. Folks, there's only one reason that these globalists, these billionaires are moving against Trump, because they know that he stands in their way. And we also know that as they're doing to him, a very rich man, they would easily move on and do to us. And so that is why this is so much a warning, alert, that blast of the klaxon going out and saying, wake up, be careful. They're pouring, there's a reason they're pouring, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars into this primary election. They want their candidates, and the establishment will always hedge its bets. That's why I told you I'm going to do a show on the other candidate in this district, Victor Avila, because he's affiliated with these very groups that I'm talking about. So Nikki Haley touts censured Republican Tony Gonzalez as the border king. She's done that several times as far as endorsing him. And so I posted this and told you a little bit about the Koch brothers and who they are and how they have worked in the past with the Clinton, Obama, and Bush, all globalists, all open borders, and other. There's other reasons that they want these open borders. Primarily, I'm thinking not just of the drugs, not just of the cheap labor. I'm talking about the endless supply of little boys and little girls that they want coming into our country for a sick, disgusting, demonic trade dealing with the bodies of little boys and little girls. And that is an underlying, disgustingly grotesque reason for why these borders are open, folks. And we can't lose sight of that either. So let me show you this video, this post, and it has to do with what the Trumper himself put up. So Donald J. Trump says, Americans for Chinese Prosperity Action is a globalist con job that is big on giving our country away to China and other countries throughout the world. And that's what they're doing. They are selling us out, not just to China, but to other, other nations, other people around the world. As you think about the hundreds of billions of dollars that have been poured into the Ukraine to corrupt officials, we knew from the get-go that should not be happening. No one was surprised, or at least, those that I speak with were not surprised when our traitorous congressman here, Tony Gonzalez, voted to send money to the Ukraine. It didn't take a rocket scientist to see what they were going to do with that money, especially given the history of Zelensky and the overall history of that Russia-Ukraine conflict, folks. We have no business. We have no national interest over there. They'll try to wrap it up in all this NATO stuff, but we should not have been sending our money over there. We should keep it at home Americans first, American veterans, American elderly, American children first, folks. And so he goes on to say, they're giving it away. They endorsed her because that has always been where her sympathies lie. She's a globalist rhino, and much like DeSantis, but not a smart one. And he says, I got to see that up close and personal. Look, there's folks that are right now screaming and saying, see, that's why we don't want him back, because he says mean things. Well, we wouldn't have this invasion happening at the border. China would not be threatening Taiwan. Certainly, the Middle East would not be ramping up operations against military personnel and our allies if Trump were in office. Certainly, we would be America first, and our dollars would be right now thriving. Our investments would be thriving, and America would be a much more secure place if Trump were president. So, mean tweets, whatever, versus a more stable world. Well, I'll take the more stable world anytime. So let's continue with the dissection here of why this endorsement of Nikki Haley by Koch is pertinent and what it has to do with the 23rd Congressional District, because I'm running for office in this district. I've been sounding the alarm since early 2019, especially when Tony Gonzalez came on the scene as a carpetbagger, as a outsider to the district. And remember that, because this is the way they operate. They bring in outsiders. They bring in people that don't live in the district. They bring in people from as far away as Dallas and other places to run in a border district, especially in the case of Victor Avila, who is surrounded in the Dallas area where his home still is. He's rented an apartment in San Antonio, as people are aware. His home is still in the Dallas area. There are districts up there, congressional districts, where the incumbents are not running for office again. And so there were vacancies back home. But he carpetbagged into this district, and there's a reason. We're gonna do a whole show on that, especially his affiliations with the very people I'm talking about today, the Koch brothers and their network of organizations. So the Koch's anti-Trump group endorses Nikki Haley in a Republican primary. So Americans for Prosperity Action, that's a word, that's a name you're going to have to memorize. I'm going to say it over and over and over again, folks, because they were very much involved when I ran against Tony Gonzalez as an independent to get rid of this disease within the Republican Party, this disease within the conservative movement. We had to get rid of him. And so I ran as an independent against him, but they helped him out. Americans for Prosperity paid for his mailers. They worked hand in hand with that other group, the Libre Initiative, that I'm going to tell you about. And so let me give you an example of just why not only this endorsement of Nikki Haley is so dangerous for America, for our sovereignty, for our place in the world, for the continuation of the American way of life, for this election where they are trying to ensure that Trump does not win the GOP nomination. And they're going to pour, hundreds of millions of dollars into this. Let's just show you a little bit of how dangerous these people are, especially when we're talking about the southern border. So let me show you this right here. So out of Breitbart, big tech, and you all know who those companies are, big tech. And I'm going to do another show, actually, since I'm talking about that, on the donors. Who is donating to Congressman Tony Gonzalez? Part of the big tech crowd. Yes, part of the big tech crowd. So the big tech Koch network, they cheer Biden's amnesty to flood the U.S. labor market. Right here, folks. You can go look it up. Breitbart. This is an article that came out in 2021 as they saw Joe Biden and his policies, Alejandro Mayorkas, who Tony Gonzalez refused to impeach before he made this hard right turn. And people, we all can see it, folks. We know what this is. This is Tony Gonzalez making a hard right turn because he was censured and because he has exposed himself as the globalist, the pro-amnesty, sympathizer with the invaders that are coming into his country, and he's doing it to enrich himself and to help his interest, his puppet masters, line their pockets with money, because there's a whole lot of money that is being made in this invasion. These contracts that are being issued out to the NGOs, like I've told you, he was inside Endeavors, a major NGO that got a part of a $1 billion no bid contract when he right after he got elected to Congress, and other organizations like NGOs like Mission Border Hope down in Eagle Pass, which is at the epicenter. Eagle Pass. You've seen all those images of thousands of people. Over 10,000 per day coming across, et cetera, folks, across this border. Eagle Pass is the epicenter of it. And Mission Border Hope, the NGO down there, is thriving on that booming business, because it is a business and it has a black market. This entire invasion has a black market aspect to it, which has to deal with human trafficking, sex trafficking, the drug trafficking that's going on, folks. And so they're excited. They're cheering here about his amnesty. Big Tech's lobbying arm and the Koch brothers network of donor class organizations are cheering on President Joe Biden's amnesty plan that would pack the United States labor market with more foreign visa workers for business to hire over American graduates and professionals. And so that's what you have. They're flooding the market with cheap labor, folks. This is part of it. This is part of what the plan would have done, put nearly all illegal aliens on the path to 8-year citizenship, 8-year path to citizenship, $4 billion in foreign aid to Central America, expand the U.S. labor market, expedite green cards. And by the way, they're doing this stuff, folks. For instance, when they decided to parole these people into the country, they went ahead and started, qualifying them for employment authorization documents, EADs. When I worked in the Border Patrol, an EAD, the parole status, was something that was very rarely used, except in some special cases for informants that would provide information on criminal organization operations. We needed them to infiltrate those organizations. We needed that information. So in such cases, informants were paroled, and they could get some work through these employment authorization documents. So all kinds of stuff in this plan. You need to research it. Breitbart, Big Tech, Koch network cheer Biden's amnesty to flood the U.S. labor market. And that's what's driving this, people. It's all about cheap labor. It's the Chamber of Commerce Republican wing. These are the folks that have donated. Yes, the Koch brothers have donated to Republicans in the past, but they're going to donate to people that they know are susceptible, that can be influenced by the big money. But it's as you all know, there's strings attached, and in this case, the Koch brothers want amnesty. They want open borders because it's cheap labor. And that's what I call the Chamber of Commerce Republicans. And Tony Gonzalez has been endorsed by the Chambers of Commerce. And you need to look at your candidates. If they have money coming in from the Koch brothers, Americans for Prosperity, the Libre Initiative, Chamber of Commerce, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, you need to look at them. You need to ask them about those affiliations and take this information that I'm providing to you. So let me show you this other one. This is another, and these are little examples of how dangerous the Koch brothers are. The reason that they're pushing for Nikki Haley, they want their puppet in office, and the reason that they've supported Tony Gonzalez, and Nikki Haley has actually endorsed Tony Gonzalez, because they're birds of a feather, folks. They are globalists, they're uniparty establishment, and they are pushing to destroy America because they think that they're going to get rich on, they see America as a cash cow. And so they think that they're going to get rich on that. And eventually, folks, if the patriots don't do something about it, if we don't expose them, and if people don't act on the truth we're sharing with you, there'll be nothing but bones to pick off of what was once the greatest nation in the face of the earth. I'm not trying to be a doomsdayer here, I'm telling you, folks, they are trying to push us over the edge, down into the rocks of a catastrophe, driving us over the cliff. And so that is why there have been others like me sounding the alarm and daring to tell you the truth. We're getting into this political season where people are saying, Frank, Reagan's 11th commandment, and you got to be nice and all this. Look, folks, we're in danger. They're choking the lifeblood out of the United States. They're trying to squeeze life out of our future. They are robbing our children of an inheritance. They are trying to destroy us and put us in shackles. They are trying to impose their will on us, and they're trying to infringe on the freedom that the Creator God Himself gave to us, as they disregard the Constitution day in and day out, folks. And so all these aspects of, you got to play nice and all this kind of stuff, folks, when the ship is going down, you don't have time to play the violin. You've got to fight for survival. And so that's why I'm exposing these people. I'm telling you, we've been sounding the alarm, warning you from the very beginning. We warned you about Tony Gonzalez. He got elected, and look at the damage he has done. Now, he's a liar. He's a panderer. He's feckless. He has no moral basis, and he is clearly to blame. He's refusing to impeach Mayorkas. He's wanting to play along with the open borders, LULAC crowd. And the Koch brothers pro-amnesty crowd has what has brought us to this very dangerous point. As everybody and their mother says, terrorist sleeper agents are coming across the country, and cartel operatives are coming into the country, and the cartels are making money and all this stuff, as they're talking about the dangerous situation we find ourselves in, the breaking point that our nation is at, folks, here. There is no time to mince words and to hold back. The truth must be put out. And so that's what I'm doing here. So here's another one. Bush Center, Chamber of Commerce, the Koch Network, unite to lobby for mass immigration expansion. So when you hear folks talking about immigration reform, look, we have had a visa program in place. We have had, humanitarian criteria for people to come in. We have had refugee programs. We have had temporary protected status. We need to enforce immigration law before we even. Well, what needs to be reformed? Perhaps you could tweak, some aspects of visa allocations here or there. But what these people are really saying when they talk about immigration reform is amnesty for DACA to begin with, DACA, and then we now have 8, 9, 10 other groups of people that have come into the country under TPS, temporary protected status. We had earthquakes and hurricanes around the world and other situations that the past presidents granted TPS, temporary protected status, to citizens, nationals of other countries. And they're in our country. So when these people talk about immigration reform, they're talking about amnesty for all these groups of people. And now we're adding to that all these people that had come in under President Biden. So here's part of the network here. The Bush Center. Now, folks have awakened to who the Bush were, globalists. 9/11 and the wars and all that kind of stuff. They are the neocons, the neoconservatives, the warmongers as well. So you have the open borders, cheap labor component of the Republican Party, and you have the warmongering, feed the war machine component of the Republican Party that want endless wars, that want to send the sons from the inner cities, they want to send the sons and daughters from the barrios and the hood and the farms to go fight their wars, to go fight, for their purposes, because it feeds the war machine. And that is funded not only through taxpayer dollars, but it is oiled with the blood of our sons and our daughters. And so these are the components that are working to, first of all, prevent President Trump from getting his second term, and working against people like yours truly here and other true America First patriots that are not going to hold back on telling you the truth. They're going to say it like it is. They're going to expose the candidates that are running with them, that are their insurance policy. And specifically here in the 23rd Congressional District, I said it months ago, folks. You can go back and research my Facebook. I posted on there and I said, now that Tony Gonzalez is in danger of the censure and his exposed record and the work that was done to expose his behind the scenes, activities like going to the Ukraine, and boom, 6 months later, a war breaks out and he votes to send them $40 billion as an initial investment. But working to expose folks, look, they don't want people like me in office because we're going to speak the truth. And we're going to go up to DC and we're going to strangle the money that is being handed out like candy at some whacked out crazy Halloween party or something. Well, we've got to get a handle on this runaway spending. But here's some of the organizations. Look, the George W. Bush Institute, the Chamber of Commerce, Billionaire Koch brothers, network of donor class organizations are banding together with other mass migration groups to demand President Joe Biden expand overall immigration to the United States. As if an open border wasn't enough, as if an invasion wasn't enough. This is a March 2022 article. So we had already seen a whole year of what Biden was doing. And so now we see that these groups wanted even more. And I'm going to show you why they want even more. Because they want to eradicate borders. They don't want sovereignty of nations. They are globalists. They believe in the one world order. And so these other groups have teamed up to create the Alliance for a New Immigration Consensus. And so they give you the reasons. Employers are struggling to find workers to fill jobs in many industries. Look, folks, to fill jobs in many industries. There's people, there's jobs out there, of course, and there are people to fill those jobs, Americans to fill their jobs. Part of the problem here has been the social engineering, the cultural condition that has taken place that causes our American kids to not want to work, causes Americans to rely on the federal government. And state government, et cetera, to give them the milk they drink every day. That's part of the problem as well. But they use that as a talking point. So this coalition includes, and there's a whole list of them here. I'm going to scroll through slowly, and I am not going to read off all of them here. My tongue will get tied here. But right at the top of the list here, Americans for Prosperity. Is one of the groups that's there. Americans for Prosperity. You go down. There's FBOs, faith-based organizations as well, folks. Bethany Christian Services, Evangelical Immigration Table, the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission of the Southern Baptist Convention. Other groups, National Association of Evangelicals, Manufacturers, National Immigration Forum, and down here, the Episcopal Church, big time involved with this invasion, everything that's happened down here. I'm surprised, honestly, that the Catholic Charities is not on here. But anyways, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and right above that, folks, the Libre Initiative. Here, Migration and Refugee Services, U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, World Relief, Western Growers. This is part of the list. Go look it up. Breitbart, from an article of March 2022, the Bush Center, Chamber of Commerce, Koch Network, unite to lobby for mass immigration expansion. And they want more than that. Let me bring up this other article here. Other aspects that they're looking for. Let me show you this one. Breitbart, the Koch Network praises a GOP-led effort in Arizona to repeal ban on in-state tuition for illegal aliens. So right here, they'll reverse the state's ban. So the Billionaire Koch Network of donor class organizations is backing a Republican-led effort in Arizona that would reverse the state's ban on providing in-state tuition to legal aliens. So I've said it before, folks. We have infiltrators in the Republican Party. We have folks here that are open borders, cheap labor. And so the Koch brothers, of course, are cheering this. because they want to continue to provide in-state tuition to illegal aliens. Let me ask you, I mean, how many of y'all have paid for your children's education? How many of y'all have had to work, a couple of jobs, both parents working? My sons worked, we helped them, but my sons worked, 2-3 jobs at a time, trying to, augment their finances. And so here, of course, it stands to reason that the Koch network would cheer any effort that is trying to, that is trying to take away this ban on in-state tuition for illegal aliens. So, folks, it's got to be Americans first. I'll say it plain and simple. It's got to be Americans first. I would rather help Americans than illegal alien invaders. Look, man, they have their own countries. They have their own governments. God established their governments. God established their borders. God established that, folks. When I say that, I'm talking, of course, about Israel. But, out of one man, he created all the nations of the earth, out of Adam, and then, down through the history of humanity, the earth was populated, and people decided on the boundaries of their nations, and government was ordained by God. And so these countries have had governments to direct and lead and to look over their citizens. And here in America, we have a constitutional republic, and we have a representative form of government where we elect our reps to go and to push for the interests of the American people. Our founding fathers were so incredibly wise. They knew that government would run away with its power and its authority, and so they said that they proposed this concept that there is a consent to be governed, that the power that government receives comes from we the people, and our consent, we willfully say, okay, we're willing to be governed. But when that government becomes treacherous and it betrays us and it becomes tyrannical, then it is up to we the people to do something about it. And so let me give you a couple more examples of why Nikki Haley is such a dangerous puppet of the Koch brothers and their big money, the billionaire class that is now donating to her, why they are trying to prevent Trump and candidates such as me from getting into office, why they are supporting candidates all throughout the country, but in this district, Tony Gonzalez, and they're involved with Victor Avila's campaign as well. And let me show you another example of that right here, folks. So the Koch brothers backed this institute, the Cato Institute. And so they have said it's time for the U.S. to have open borders. The Cato Institute's director of economic studies, Jeffrey Myron, says the U.S. has nothing to fear, much to gain from open borders, saying the Americans should forget about putting a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border to stop illegal immigration. So you can go look that up for yourselves, folks. They're funded. The Cato Institute, funded by the Koch brothers, they want to erase our sovereignty, do away with borders. They want a globalist, new world order is what they're pushing for. And so let me show you this right here. And they're going to continue to push this language of immigration reform, immigration deals. So key points here. So this is from a website here, Stand Together. New campaign urges lawmakers for action toward immigration deal. They want immigration reform. This is as recent as March 3, 2022. So key points: border security, dreamers, referring to the DACA people, agricultural workforce. So you can see the connection to the cheap labor among pressing issues facing the U.S. So today, two grassroots advocacy organizations, the Libre Initiative and Americans for Prosperity, announced an immigration campaign calling on Congress to start working toward solutions that address immigration issues facing the country. Security at the border, the uncertainty for dreamers. They want amnesty. And the economic and workforce situations in our agricultural industry. Just put American kids to work. Put the people that are out on parole, part of the condition to go work. That kind of stuff, folks, instead of giving it away to people from other countries that that are going to damage, they're going to potentially inflict harm on Americans, that we don't know their intent. We don't know what's in their hearts and their minds. And I saw a video all day yesterday, it was Fox News. There's one guy that's coming up with this new caravan. And what did he continue to say? He said, hey, look, we demand that Joe Biden let us in. That's what he was saying. We demand that Joe Biden let us in. And he says, look, we're just here to work for 6 or 7 years, and then we're going to go home. They're not fleeing any kind of real persecution. They're coming over here for what they believe to be economic opportunity, folks. They're coming over here to work. They're going to send hundreds of millions of dollars out of the country. And that's one thing I've spoken about in Congress. We need to look at the remittances. We need to look at the money that is being sent out of the country, and it's not staying here. It's not staying in America. So that's something we definitely need to look at. So right here, they come up again, Alliance for New Immigration Consensus. In it, you have AFP, Americans for Prosperity, Libre Initiative. Daniel Garza, the president of the Libre Initiative, said politicians in Washington are failing their constituents. Practical immigration fixes would give us a stronger economy, a stronger border, a stronger America. They wrap all that up, folks. They're pushing for open borders. They're pushing for amnesty, and they wrap it up in this, immigration reform, immigration fixes. That's the way they couch it. But let me show you a little bit about Daniel Garza. And I've shown you a picture of him with Tony Gonzalez and the Libre Initiative, of which he is the executive director, came out and endorsed Tony Gonzalez. And this is what he has to say. Let me show you this screen right here. So it goes back to what we're talking about earlier here. Nikki Haley gets a Koch-funded boost in early states. So they were talking about the money that's pouring in. Notches a significant Koch network endorsement. And so Americans for Prosperity, a powerful super PAC, is going to endorse them, and it promised to deploy the full weight and scope of its huge grassroots network to buttress Haley's campaign infrastructure in early states, and pledging millions of dollars in outside ad spending. AFP is proud to throw our full support behind Nikki Haley, who offers America the opportunity, blah, blah, blah. Open borders agenda. I just showed you that. In some ways, the group and the candidate are an odd match. Haley is a thoroughgoing defense hawk. In other words, a neocon, a neoconservative, a warmonger, wanting to feed the war machine, wanting to push us into wars. It's recognized that that's what she is. But they want anybody but Trump. And so they're throwing their support behind her. So let me show you this. This is what, let me see, Romeo. This is one of the tweets that went out. Like clockwork, the pro-open borders, pro-jailbreak bill establishment is lining up behind a moderate who has no mathematical pathway to defeat the former president. So Romeo tweeted. So that's one perspective there. Another organization affiliated with a Koch network of political groups is endorsing Nevada Senate contender Sam Brown. So if you guys are out there in the state of Nevada, you need to be looking at this dude Sam Brown out there who's running for Senate. He's challenging the incumbent, but in this case, you have an open borders pro-amnesty, globalist organization that has also thrown in its support behind a Republican. I tell you, you're going to have them in the party. You're going to have globalist infiltrators in the Republican Party. And so that was an endorsement from the Libre Initiative Action, dedicated to mobilizing Hispanic voters for conservative candidates and causes. So that's what they say. But the Libre Initiative worked to endorse Tony Gonzalez, and he is anything but conservative. He was censured by the state Republican Executive Committee because of his voting and legislative record and his actions to stop serious efforts to get in the way of serious efforts to secure the border. He pushed back on H.R. 2, Secure the Border Act. He pushed hard. He was the only member of the Republican Texas delegation, of the Texas Republican delegation, the only one to not sign on to that plan. He pushed against it. And he also pushed against impeaching Mayorkas, before he was for impeaching Mayorkas, which is he's thrown out a lifeline and trying to save his candidacy here. It's the beginning of a broader effort by the Libre Initiative Action to turn out Hispanic voters for the GOP in dozens of races down ticket. That might sound, hey, Frank, they're turning out, votes for Republicans. They're turning out votes for globalists, infiltrators in the Republican Party. They're turning out the vote for uniparty establishment Republicans. That's what they're doing. Rhinos, if you want to call them. That's who these people are getting the vote out for. The organization has staff, 200 paid staff, claims thousands of volunteers, all over Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, New Mexico, North Carolina, Ohio, Texas, Virginia, Wisconsin. And so there's a couple of comments here. They say they're endorsing, mobilizing their grassroots army of Latino volunteers. What the heck, folks? I call myself a Texan and I'm an American. All this other stuff is just meant to divide us. The Libre Initiative Action has not, and so this is key, folks. Listen to this. The Libre Initiative Action has not ruled out endorsing a Republican presidential contender and would likely oppose former President Donald Trump should it get involved in the GOP primary. Did you just hear that? The Libre Initiative Action, funded by the Koch brothers, who endorsed Nikki Haley, who has supported Tony Gonzalez, and who is affiliated with the Victor Avila campaign, would likely oppose former President Donald Trump should he get involved in the GOP primary. And this is what the president of that organization, Libre Initiative, Daniel Garza, says. We feel strongly that the polarization, mean tweets, and the division in the country is worsening. And we just need to turn the page on that. This is what Daniel Garza says, president of the group's policy arm, the Libre Initiative. He said earlier this month during a breakfast with reporters in Miami, we want to turn the page on the current primary leader. Daniel Garza says, turn the page on Donald Trump. He is the current primary leader. This is Daniel Garza, who posed with Tony Gonzalez in pictures, and actually they had a sit-down, round table discussion in El Paso, and the Libre Initiative subsequently endorsed Tony Gonzalez, and Victor Avila has staffers affiliated with the Libre Initiative, with Americans for Prosperity and the Concerned Veterans of America, which is another Koch brothers organization, on his campaign team, folks. I said it early on. The establishment is going to hedge its bets. They're going to buy an insurance policy. If Tony Gonzalez is not reelected, they've got their insurance policy in the person of Victor Avila. I'm going to do a show on that. I'm not just going to say it. I'm going to show you the proof. You can see it with your eyes and you can chew it. You can chew on it. So here we go. Here's another example of what I was telling you. And like I said, folks, I'm going to show you and I'm going to provide you the truth. This is from a post early on. When was this? Let me look at the date. This was January 27, 2022. So this is a post I had done on Tony Gonzalez. And I was talking about the pro-amnesty group, the Libre Initiative, Americans for Prosperity. Been sounding the alarm, folks, for years, warning you about the globalist tentacles reaching into Congressional District 23, into Texas politics, and of course, with national connections. But this was out of an article of Texas Scorecard. Pro-amnesty group endorsed Texas Republicans. The Libre Initiative advocates for permanent legal status for illegal aliens. And so, of course, subsequently, those candidates ran far away from that endorsement. One of them is, he can run, but he can't hide. That's Senator Pete Flores, Senate District 24 right now. But that's one of the persons that was endorsed. And so I wanted to show you this right here. I've circled this, and this might not show up. So I've got an image here. This was a mailer. And let me get myself out of the way here. This was a mailer that went out. And it was paid for by the Libre Initiative in the lower left-hand corner of this mailer here. Paid for by the Libre Initiative out of McAllen, Texas. The Libre Initiative logo, you can see it there. It looks like a sunburst or a light burst of some kind. But right here in the postage stamp, it says paid for by Americans for Prosperity. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity. And so, and of course, the headline here is stupid. Representative Tony Gonzalez is leading the way to improve our immigration system for all Texans. I'm a Texan. The only immigration system I want to see is consequences. Throw people in jail for crossing the river illegally. The rest of them can show up at a port of entry, state their claim, and if they have a legitimate, credible claim, then they get into the process. And if not, you tell them al sur rápido. Go south as quick as you can. Get out of here. But, this is, and people bought this. Oh, my God. Hey, look, man, Tony Gonzalez, he's working, on an immigration system for all Texans. We're already American citizens. And so let me show you this image here. Let me zoom in on this, and I'm going to have to get out of this one. So let me get out of this. And I'm going to have to bring this one up. And somehow or another, yeah, right here. So let me present it to you. Share screen, window, this one. Share. Okay, so right here, this should be a little bit clear. I'll zoom it up. Yep, here we go. So paid for by the Libre Initiative. The Libre Initiative out of McAllen, Texas. Their address up there in Nolana Avenue. The Libre Initiative logo right here. And postage paid, nonprofit organization, U.S. postage paid, Americans for Prosperity. Right there, folks. It's all right there. That's the proof. And when I saw that, I was like, people are going to swallow this up, and they're going to not have a clue about who the Libre Initiative is and about who Americans for Prosperity, who they are, their affiliation with the Koch brothers, the fact that they're open borders, pro-amnesty, cheap labor, globalists. They were just going to get a mailer, just like the one that just came out here a couple of days ago. As I'm showing it to you, some of y'all may recognize it. It's from our resident trader, Tony Gonzalez, the trader in Congressional District 23. All lies, it's capitalizing on Elon oblivious to, who Tony Gonzalez really is. Maybe by now he's found out. I did a show on Twitter about it. Hopefully Elon got a hold of it. And but anyways, we'll see. He might be, some people would say, hey, he's part of it as well. So anyways, in that mailer, folks, I knew that people were not going to do the research. So that's why I'm just telling you here, exposing, bringing you the truth. Some people are not going to like it. Some people are going to say it's mean. Some people are going to say, why go down this road? Because these people that are running also want to be my representative. And even though I'm in the race, I might not be in the runoff, or, I might not win or whatever. We're hoping for a runoff at least, if not an outright win. We could have used a few more people to get Gonzalez in a runoff, and probably, perhaps if we would have had the right people running, maybe just put him in third place, which would have meant he was out of it altogether. But let's start, rounding the bend here. Let's start closing it up. I've been showing you proof after proof after proof about Nikki Haley, Koch brothers, globalists, and the danger they present to America. And so let me show you this few other, and then I promise you, we're going to close it up. Texas scorecard here. Nikki Haley touts censure Republican Tony Gonzalez as the border king. Just shows you how clueless she is, how hated the guy is down here, and the fact that he's treading water. He went out too far in the deep end of the pool out there, I guess. He's treading water. He's facing not getting reelected here, and we're gonna need people to turn out. But she came down and they went on a tour. This was back in April. She says, Tony Gonzalez is the border king, and she says, he needs to be at every immigration discussion happening up in Washington D.C. No, heck no. He is an Open Borders Amnesty guy affiliated with LULAC, which is funded by the Open Borders Open Societies Foundation, Soros organization. He's affiliated with IPAC, the Intra-Parliamentary Alliance in China, funded by the Soros Foundation, and the National Endowment for Democracies, the NED, which is an organization that was stood up after the shenanigans of the CIA were coming to light, their involvement down in south of the border, Latin America, Central America. The NED was created, and in effect, what they do is what the CIA used to do, but just under a different name. And that's another aspect, folks. That's a whole other show. But there's people pouring into our southern border. You just have to wonder how many of them have been trained by radical Islamists. How many of them have been trained by the cartels and our cartel operatives? And how many have been trained by the CIA for such a moment, such a time as this? Those are the things we need to think about. And I probably just put a big old freaking bullseye on my back. But they know who we are out here, and they know we're trying to expose them. They know we're trying to, spread the word as much as possible. But yes, Tony Gonzalez affiliated with Soros-funded LULAC, Soros-funded Intra-Parliamentary Alliance in China, and the NED, the National Endowment for Democracies, which was brought in to provide top cover for the CIA. You need to do your research on that. But Nikki Haley touts censure Republican Tony Gonzalez as the border king. And here they are, both looking clueless. So let's get out of this picture. I would do this very reluctantly. Would tell you to go look for the C-SPAN coverage of their visit, campaign 2024, April 3, 2023. Nikki Haley visits the southern border. Look, folks, I don't want to inflict that on you. It's just a little bit too much. So let me get out of here. So you can listen to it. It's 25 minutes, and pretty much it's all lies. As far as Tony Gonzalez or what he's saying out here, he's made this hard right turn. People out here know he's been talking about border security, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the whole time he's been pushing for open borders. He's been helping the NGOs. He's been in bed with them, et cetera. And so I'm going to close out with these last couple of videos. Once again, cementing the relationship between globalist puppet Nikki Haley and Tony Gonzalez. This is from 2020 when he was first running for office. And this is Nikki Haley herself endorsing Tony Gonzalez. So here we go. Let me expand this.
Nikki Haley, and I'm supporting and endorsing Tony Gonzalez for the 23rd District in Texas. He came from humble beginnings. He went through a lot of challenges, but he never let that make him a victim. Instead, he turned it into service for our country. He has fought and laid down the line to make sure that we are all safe. Now we have an opportunity to send him to Washington. He will protect our energy jobs, he will protect pre-existing conditions, and he will serve the families in Texas. So join me in supporting Tony Gonzalez for Congress.
And of course, none of that happened. He's a traitor. He's opened up the pipeline, and now that he has opened up Pandora's box, he's running around scared, talking like he's tough on border security. But we here in CD23 know the difference, and so we need to make sure that he is not reelected. And here's another video that I'm going to show you. This was later she endorsed him for 2020, and then she endorsed him again for 2022. And here we go. Let me pop this up.
How are you? There you go.
Hi, I'm Nikki Haley, and I am proud to endorse Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez. You know, his district includes 800 miles on the U.S.-Mexico border. He can tell you Kamala's been missing, but he hasn't. He's been on the front lines. He's fought for the people of his district, and now we need to fight for him.
My task force
So we're
officer
not
with
going
the
to fight for him,
FBI.
folks. Obviously, what's happening here is that Tony Gonzalez has betrayed us, and he's opened up the pipeline. So I just wanted to show you Nikki Haley here, and so I'm going to close it out with this final picture here. This is the 23rd congressional district that I'm running in. It's a huge district. It spans from El Paso out in West Texas, El Paso, and everything inside this dotted lines here. It circles around Fort Bliss on the north and on the east, and it circles around East El Paso, outside Horizon City, and down into the Socorro area, San Elizario, San Eli, Clint, Fabens. So if you're out in that part of the state and you know people out in that part of the state, tell them about my campaign. Tell them about usborderpatriot.com, Frank Lopez Jr., U.S. Border Patriot. I need your help. But so it's all of West Texas from just outside El Paso, the lower valley of El Paso, down Fabens, Tornillo, down into Fort Hancock. And then it goes to Del City by the New Mexico border, Sierra Blanca, Van Horn, all the way out to Mentone, Kermit, Wink, Monahans, Pecos, right below the Midland, Odessa area, Crane County, Upton County, Rankin, Big Lake over in Reagan County, McCamey, Fort Stockton, Coyanosa down there where you can get them sweet melons out there. Fort Davis, Marfa, Alpine, West Texas, Brewster, Sanderson, Dryden, into Valverde, Rock Springs, Sonora, El Dorado, huge. Ozona. If you know people out in those counties and those communities, tell them about me. Edwards County, Uvalde, Hondo, Medina County, Castroville, and then south into Eagle Pass, Crystal City, Carrizo Springs, Pearsall, Dilley, Frio County, Cotula, and into Ensenada, just north of Laredo. Huge district, 800 plus miles of border. And unfortunately, right now, we have a total open borders globalist in office. I'm trying my best to get rid of them. I've shown you today, folks, the footage so you can see it real time and you can go back and refer to it. This endorsement by the Koch brothers of our one of the presidential candidates, how desperately they don't want Donald Trump to be the president because they know he's going to come in and clean house. They don't want him in there. They want business as usual with all their drug trafficking and child trafficking and cheap labor and Department of Defense contracts. With many of those DOD contracting companies are actually involved in this invasion. They've also gotten their meat hooks into it and are making money off the invasion as well. These NGOs that are working both sides of the coin, NGOs like Baptist Child and Family Services that is working with the state of Texas. They were running one of the centers down in Carrizo Springs, but they were also involved in housing the National Guard troops. So they're making money on both sides of the coin. That's why I'm running for Congress, folks, to fight and push back against this. And I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth because I owe it to you, not just as your would-be representative, but as your fellow Texan, as your fellow American, and a person that knows that one day I'm going to stand before God, as we all will. One day I'm going to stand before God, and I'm going to give an account for my life. And did I speak the truth? Did I tell you the truth? Did I sound the alarm? Did I do what I could to avoid you from being fooled? Did I do what I could to avoid these sellouts and these puppets from getting into office? And did I do all that I could to avert, my God, a civil war here in our country, folks? Because that's what they're trying to do to us. That's what they're trying to push us to. They want bloodshed. They want to depopulate. Yes, this is part of a vast agenda. And so I say all these things knowing that there's those that are not going to believe, those that are going to scoff, and those that are going to be angry, but there are those that will. They will sense inside the urging, the nudging. I have discerned that I'm speaking truth here. And so I need you to pull up alongside me. Frank Lopez Jr., U.S. Border Patriot. Visit usborderpatriot.com. Like, share, follow this, and get it out there as much as you can. Thank you for being on and watching today's show. God bless you. God bless Texas. And let me finish up with this. No matter what you're going through in life, whatever storm you find yourself in, however the waves of life have tossed you around, if your marriage is in trouble, if your children are prodigals and are out in the world lost and down in the pits of hell and they're living lost lives, if you're in trouble financially, if you're in trouble at work, no matter what you're going through, God knows, and He's there. Call out to Him. Word of God says that draw near to God, He will draw near to you. Call out to Him, and He will respond to you. Clámame, que yo te responderé. Cry out to me, and I will respond to you, is what the Word of God says. And nothing's too big, nothing's too small. He shed His blood on the cross of Calvary as sacrifice, redemption, so that we could have an eternal relationship with God. And so He is our Lord and He is our Savior. And cry out to the living God, to the King of the universe, Jesus Christ. Thank you. God bless you.